Which would you choose? A military leader who values discipline above everything, or a civilian president tied down by laws and endless bureaucracy? President Ibrahim Traoré of Burkina Faso is no ordinary leader. He's the kind of man who doesn't just talk about discipline, he enforces it. And recently, he proved it again in a way that left many people talking. Traoré made an unannounced visit to a military training facility in Burkina Faso. What he did there sent a clear message to every soldier, and maybe even to every citizen. During his visit, Traoré gave a stern warning. Any soldier caught using a mobile phone will face severe punishment. Sounds extreme, right? But here's the question. Why would Traoré ban phones during training? What harm can a simple phone do to a soldier? Is this about discipline, or is there something deeper behind this decision? Stick with us, because the answer will make you rethink what it takes to build a strong, independent army in today's world. Recently, President Ibrahim Traoré paid a visit to the National Commando Training Center in Po. There, he met with the combatant forces of the Central South region, men and women who are on the front lines of Burkina Faso's fight against terrorism. During the visit, Traoré didn't just show up for photos. He spoke directly to the soldiers, praising their commitment and efforts in protecting the nation. He congratulated them for the victories they've already won, but quickly reminded them that the fight isn't over. "You managed to repel the enemy who was looking to settle here," he said firmly. "But I urge you to maintain your patrols in the forests to prevent any attempt to return." Now, let's pause for a second and think about this. This isn't the first time Traoré has done something like this. Since coming to power, he's made regular visits to military camps and bases across the country. Why? To motivate the troops, to make them feel that their leader is with them, not hiding in a palace far away. And here's something even more remarkable. According to reports, Traoré doesn't just visit the troops, sometimes he even joins them on the battlefield. Yes, the president of Burkina Faso putting his own life on the line to fight alongside his soldiers. How many leaders in the world would do that? This is what makes Traoré different. His dedication to the military is not just symbolic, it's real. He understands that right now, in a country facing insecurity, the military is the backbone of the nation. Without them, there is no stability, no economy, no future. That's why he doesn't joke with discipline in the army, and that's why he doesn't tolerate anyone who tries to undermine the military. For Traoré, this is not just about politics. It's about survival, sovereignty, and the future of Burkina Faso. Now let's go back to that powerful moment during his visit to the National Commando Training Center in Po. Standing before the soldiers, President Traoré delivered a message that struck at the very heart of Burkina Faso's struggle. He said, "We do not fight for the sake of combat. We fight because we have been attacked, because they want to snatch our lands. Our duty is to defend our country and pass it on, free and dignified, to future generations." Take a moment and let that sink in. This is not just military talk. This is a call to purpose. A reminder that every battle fought is not for politics or power. It's for survival, for sovereignty, and for the future of an entire nation. Then Traoré went even further, driving home the core of his vision. Fight for a Burkina where our resources will really benefit our people. That one sentence sums up everything Traoré stands for. His agricultural investments, his push for food self-sufficiency, his crackdown on corruption, his defiance against foreign control, all of it is aimed at one goal: to build a Burkina Faso where Burkinabe wealth serves Burkinabe citizens. And honestly, in a continent where so many leaders sell out their countries for foreign favors, this kind of leadership is rare and remarkable. Captain Traoré didn't stop there. He turned his attention to military strategy, and with a voice that carried both conviction and authority, he declared, "There is no alternative solution. The Burkinabe will not negotiate with his enemy. We will fight and we will triumph. There will be no negotiation. These lands are ours. Those who came to attack us will die here. We will not give up on anything." Not a square centimeter powerful words, and they reveal everything about Traoré's mindset. Zero tolerance for terrorism, no compromise, no backroom deals, just victory. But here's the shocking part. While Traoré is fighting for his country's survival, Some Western critics have the audacity to say he's doing it wrong. Yes, you heard that right. There are voices in the West suggesting that Burkina Faso and the other AES alliance leaders should negotiate with terrorists. Negotiate with who? The same people who have slaughtered thousands of innocent civilians? The same people who have burned villages, destroyed lives, and forced millions into displacement? Let's be clear, you cannot negotiate with terror. You can't reason with those whose only goal is chaos and destruction. The only way to deal with terrorism is to defeat it. And that is why President Traoré, along with his allies in Mali and Niger, is fighting relentlessly, not just for land, but for freedom, for dignity, and for the future of their people. After laying out the military strategy, President Traoré turned his attention to something that might sound small, but is deadly serious. With a stern expression, he issued a strong warning about certain harmful habits within the ranks, habits that are costing lives. At the top of that list, the use of mobile phones during operations. Traoré didn't mince words. He said, "You are brave, but some behaviors cost you lives. The use of the phone in operation impairs concentration and puts the whole group at risk. Those who cannot get rid of this habit will be excluded from the ranks and punished. We will not tolerate that because of the unconsciousness of some, others lose their lives." In simple terms, if any soldier is caught using a mobile phone during an operation, they will be kicked out and punished. Traoré didn't reveal what the punishment would be, but judging by his tone, it will be severe. Now, you might be wondering, how can a mobile phone put an entire mission at risk? The answer is simple: distraction kills. According to senior Burkina Faso military officials, they've discovered that phones are one of the biggest threats to discipline and focus during combat. Picture this: a soldier is deployed on the front lines against heavily armed jihadist groups. He knows the enemy can strike at any moment. Every sound in the forest could mean life or death. Yet, instead of being fully alert, he's scrolling through Facebook or chatting with a loved one. 1 second of lost focus can cost him his life and the lives of his entire unit. This is why Traoré is cracking down. For him, discipline is non-negotiable. One mistake is one too many when your country's survival is at stake. But the dangers of mobile phone use on the battlefield go beyond distraction. According to top military commanders, phones also pose a massive security risk. Every time a soldier uses a phone, they leave a digital footprint. Enemy forces can track calls, intercept messages, and even pinpoint troop locations. And this isn't just theory. There have been real incidents where missions were compromised and soldiers lost their lives because someone couldn't put down their phone. In some cases, terrorist groups were able to launch surprise attacks simply because they tracked a single careless signal. This is why the Burkina Faso army has decided to take a zero-tolerance stance on phone usage during operations. Some people might criticize this, saying soldiers should have the right to stay connected with their families. But let's be honest. Sometimes leadership means making tough decisions for the greater good. And President Traoré, he's not afraid of making those decisions. He's proven it before. Remember a few months ago when he dismissed 2 high-ranking military officers for abandoning their duties and refusing to show up for work? That move sparked controversy. Critics said Traoré was just trying to show who's boss. But was it really about ego or about discipline and accountability? Let's analyze that. In a country like Burkina Faso, where the threat of insecurity and terrorist attacks looms every single day, discipline isn't just important, it's a matter of life and death. Every soldier, every officer must be ready. There's no room for negligence, no space for carelessness. And that's exactly why President Traoré made a bold and controversial decision. He dismissed 2 top military officers who abandoned their duties for 6 whole days. Now, this wasn't about taking a day off. This wasn't a case of sick leave. It was a clear act of dereliction of duty. And here's what makes it even worse. These weren't just any officers. They held critical roles in the Burkina Faso military structure. One of them was a commander in charge of logistics. If you know anything about military operations, you understand how crucial logistics is. It's the backbone of every mission. Supplies, ammunition, transportation, coordination, it all runs through logistics. Without it, even the best trained army can fail. So imagine this, the commander responsible for keeping everything running smoothly suddenly disappears for almost a week. What happens if terrorists strike during that time? What happens to troops on the front lines who desperately need ammunition, medical supplies, or reinforcements? The entire defense structure could collapse in an instant. That's why Traoré didn't hesitate. He knew the risk was too great. And as a leader who values accountability, he acted swiftly, decisively. Some people called it harsh. Others said it was just Traoré trying to show power. But was it really? Or was it a necessary step to protect the lives of Burkina Faso citizens? Now let's talk about the second officer, Commander Bel Mamadi. His responsibility was even more critical. He wasn't just any commander, he was the man in charge of leading Burkina Faso's ground troops. And if you know anything about military strategy, you understand how vital the ground forces are. They are the backbone of every mission. They are the first line of defense against terrorist attacks. And their leader? He has to be present, always. No excuses, no disappearing acts, especially in a country at war with extremists. Yet, for 6 entire days, Commander Mamadi vanished. No presence, no leadership, nothing. Can you imagine the danger this posed? The very forces responsible for protecting lives were without their leader during an active conflict. This disappearance wasn't just negligence. It was a clear violation of military protocols and a complete breakdown of discipline. Now here's where things get interesting. Traoré could have taken the easy route. He could have suspended these officers. He could have issued a warning or a light punishment. But no, he went for the toughest decision, dismissal. To some, that may sound harsh. Critics will say Traoré is being authoritarian. But here's the truth. This move was absolutely necessary. Why? Because in times like this, leadership must send a message. A message that indiscipline will not be tolerated. A message that no one, not even top commanders, is above the rules. This wasn't just punishment. This was a warning, a signal to every soldier in the Burkina Faso army that the fight for national survival demands discipline, loyalty, and control. Anything less is unacceptable. Now, let's address the critics. Some people have slammed Traoré's decision, calling it a power grab. According to them, Traoré dismissed these top military officials just to prove he's in charge, to make an example of them and strengthen his grip on power. In simple terms, they're painting him as a dictator. But is that really the case? From what we know about Traoré, the answer is clear. He is not a dictator. Yes, the dismissal might seem harsh, but we need to remember something very important. Traoré's government is a military one. It is not a civilian administration where indiscipline and corruption are tolerated every single day. And let's be honest, look at most African countries practicing so-called democracy. What do you see? Chaos. Things simply don't work in many government ministries and departments because of one major problem: a lack of discipline and accountability. Take a trip to some of these government offices and you'll be shocked. Civil servants are on the payroll, yet some of them don't show up for work for months. These people are what we call ghost workers, collecting salaries without lifting a finger, and the system allows it. No one is held accountable. This gross indiscipline has crippled many African governments. Ministries are inefficient, projects stall, public funds disappear, and yet no one faces consequences. Traoré is different. He understands that if Burkina Faso is going to survive terrorism, build food security, and achieve true independence, discipline cannot be optional. It must be the rule. That's why he acts decisively, not to show power, but to show that responsibility and loyalty matter. Something that so-called democratic systems in Africa have failed to enforce for decades. But what's truly baffling is this. In many African countries, the government does nothing about this kind of indiscipline. There's no accountability, not from the leaders, not from the workers. And this is why things don't work. For any country to function, everyone must play their part. Citizens, civil servants, the military, everyone. That's why President Traoré took such a drastic step. Yes, dismissing those top military officers might seem harsh. Some may even call it dictatorial. But the reality is, it was necessary. It sends a strong message. Discipline matters, and accountability is non-negotiable. This isn't just about punishing 2 officers. It's about setting a precedent. And this same principle explains why Traoré acted swiftly when some elements within the military tried to destabilize the country by plotting a coup. He didn't hesitate. He arrested them and put them on trial. No second chances. But here's the interesting part. Traoré wasn't always this tough. When he first took power, he faced his first major test, a shocking assassination and coup attempt. And guess who launched it? Members of the Burkina Faso military, men he knew personally. Now you would think Traoré would come down hard on them, but he didn't. He pardoned them. Yes, you heard that right. He let them go. Traoré later revealed that he knew exactly who plotted the attack. He knew money had exchanged hands to influence people into removing him from power. And what did he do? He sat them down and told them, don't fall for it. He gave them a chance. He extended an olive branch. He believed they could be reasoned with. But today, things are different. After multiple threats, after seeing what betrayal can do, Traoré no longer plays nice. He understands that weakness invites chaos. And now, he's determined to keep his house in order, no matter what it takes. It's not exactly clear, but maybe this was part of the reason why a second coup attempt happened. Perhaps those soldiers mistook Traoré's mercy for weakness. They thought bringing him down would be easy. Almost a year later, the second coup attack struck. And if that wasn't enough, a third coup attempt followed in the very same month. But this time, President Traoré was a different man. Gone was the leader who pardoned his enemies. This time, he took a firm stand. He launched a full investigation, and what he discovered shocked many. 3 soldiers were at the heart of the conspiracy. They weren't just plotting, they were committing treason. They were arrested and charged with military plot, breach of military orders, plotting against state security, criminal association, and endangerment. No more second chances, no more tolerance for betrayal. And this is where Traoré's leadership truly shines. Since coming to power, he has faced more than 15 coup attempts, yet each one has only made him stronger. Each plot, each betrayal, has reinforced his determination to lead Burkina Faso into a new era of sovereignty and accountability. The truth is, Africa needs leaders like Ibrahim Traoré, leaders who are not afraid to make hard decisions for the good of their nations. Imagine if every African president followed this example, demanding discipline, insisting on accountability, and standing firm against foreign control. Our continent would look very different. From the day he took office, Traoré has made bold moves. His first priority? Reclaiming Burkina Faso's independence. That meant breaking the colonial pact with France, a move that ended France's legal right to deploy its military in the country. And he didn't stop there. Traoré went even further by kicking French troops out of Burkina Faso completely. Think about that for a moment. For decades, previous Burkina Faso leaders tolerated France's interference, its military presence, its influence, its exploitation of Burkina Faso's resources. They accepted the status quo. But Traoré chose a different path, a path of sovereignty, a path free from foreign domination. And make no mistake, this took guts. Few leaders on the continent have the courage to challenge France openly. Traoré did it without blinking. Secondly, let's talk about one of Traoré's boldest moves, breaking away from the old norm of African dependency on the West. For decades, African countries have been conditioned to believe that partnerships with Western nations are the only path to progress. Aid, loans, military support, all tied to conditions that keep Africa under control. It became the standard playbook. Rely on the West, and in return, surrender your sovereignty piece by piece. But President Traoré saw through this illusion. He recognized that Western relations have not benefited Africa. In fact, he's openly said in his speeches that the West has exploited Africa for its own gain, stripping the continent of its resources while leaving its people in poverty. And so, he made a decision, a hard, controversial, and revolutionary decision: cut the dependency and build new alliances beyond the West. This wasn't easy. The backlash was immediate. Critics labeled him a dictator. They accused him of isolating Burkina Faso. And why? Because he chose to partner with countries like Russia and North Korea, nations the West considers enemies. But here's the thing. Traoré is a soldier, a man of vision, and when he makes a decision, he stands by it. He refuses to bow to Western pressure or propaganda. His focus remains on one goal: building a Burkina Faso that is truly independent, free from foreign control. And guess what? Other nations are taking note. Mali, Niger, Chad. One by one, African countries are following Traoré's lead, rejecting Western domination and forming alliances that put African interests first. This is more than diplomacy. This is a movement, a rebellion against neocolonialism, and Ibrahim Traoré is at the center of it. So now you can see why President Traoré had to make this tough call. When the West lashed out, accusing him of suppressing free speech, Traoré didn't flinch. He stood his ground. Why? Because he believes this decision is in the best interest of Burkina Faso. Traoré's move to ban Western media sends a powerful message. It shows the kind of leadership Africa truly needs. Leaders who are strong enough to make hard choices. Leaders who put their people first no matter the cost. Because let's face it, Africa deserves better. Better leadership, better accountability, better independence. And for the first time in a long time, we're seeing a leader who is willing to risk everything to make that happen. But what do you think? Was Traoré right to ban Western media? Or do you think this will backfire? Let us know in the comments below. And if you believe Africa needs more leaders who put their nations first, smash that like button, share this video, and don't forget to subscribe for more eye-opening stories about Africa's fight for sovereignty.